We now have with us Mr. Ravi Kant Verma, who currently leads a global support organization for a prominent SaaS vendor. He has partnered with engineering teams to drive efficiency and reduce overall incident ownership by enabling in product support, case deflection, and improving product quality. Most recently, he ramped up a technical support team for a leading backup vendor. He finds joy in driving initiatives, creating and standardizing operating procedures, and has a strong belief in diversity and continues to enable teams to be diverse, which ensures that they have varied ideas and 360-degree approach to solving any of the problems. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this warm welcome. And if you're ready, I can get started. We can straight away get into the topic that we are going to present today.
Yes, sir, we are ready.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So, as you all heard, Anshika kind of shared a brief background about me. Uh, and today we are here to speak about diversity. And there has been a lot of discussion around diversity over the past few years. And if you have seen a lot of big products, a lot of big companies have kind of imbibed the idea of diversity and have gotten into this marketing aspect of selling their products. And kind of in the process, have smudged the whole identity of diversity. And this is my attempt to kind of make it more clear, make it easily understandable for everyone as to what diversity is. And that is the reason I'm trying to demystify it. And as I demystify diversity, I also want to show how it helps organizations and companies deliver great results and achieve success. And glad that I've been able to clear the CFP process. And here I am with DiverSecCon 2021 and sharing my thoughts and ideas. Now, while I'm sharing my thoughts and ideas, you got to know about me, but there are certain aspects that I would want you to know, which kind of helps you get the mindset to listen to me. I mean, why would you even listen to someone talking about diversity and inclusion when you don't have a clear background as to what kind of work I have done in this field, right? So over the time of 18 years that I've spent in IT and ITES industry, and as Anshika mentioned, that I'm currently kind of holding a leadership position for managing and delivering support for through a data solution, specifically for the data center products. I'm also kind of working at a advisory capacity for Cleap Technologies, and I've founded the community called Focus Hive. If you get a chance, do look at a YouTube channel called Focus Hive. I kind of talk about a lot on it about employee engagement, motivation, stuff like that. And that's where I want to kind of segue into our topic for today. And in my mind, the first thing that comes in when organizations and big product companies are talking about diversity, it just seems like it's more like a check mark on their audit sheet. For me, that's not what diversity means. We have to really look at diversity in a very rooted level. And that is what I'm going to present in today for everybody to kind of look at what diversity is. And probably you'll not be surprised because I'm going to just share very simple definition of what diversity is. Right now, before we deep dive into the whole session, let me just talk about the structure wherein I'm going to present what diversity is, what are the various benefits of it in your workspace, and whenever we talk about diversity, inclusion has to be part of it, right? And they go hand in hand, but a lot of people kind of think of it interchangeably as well, but that's not right. They go hand in hand, but they are very different than each other, and one cannot exist without the other. So we'll talk about diversity as well as inclusion together and learn about how one helps the other reach the success for the company, right? And Then we want to look at how inclusion has to be built within your organization. Once you have diversity, what next? And then how it benefits the overall organization to reach a certain height. We've got some numbers, we've got some stats around here. We'll be talking about them. I'll share some of the market research and show you how diversity and inclusion helped top quartile companies reach their goals and actually blast their goals, right? So these are some of the awesome stats that we'll look at. But first, let's look at diversity. Diversity is, as I said, not just a check mark on your audit, yearly audit sheet. It is, and the fancy definition that I put up on the screen, which is pretty much telling you that diversity is having workforce or employees from all walks of life. And that, simply put, I would want to kind of take you one step further and kind of take you away from diversity and let you think about the word called care. care, care. As long as you care for humans, as long as you care for people, that's it. I mean, for me, diversity for an organization, for a leader, for a leadership is like, as a leader, you yourself, your peers, your one priority is care for your people. And you have to understand that your company, your organization doesn't run because of the revenue that you're generating quarter on quarter or year on year, but because of the people who work for you, who are generating those revenues for you. So, as long as you are able to care for your people, your revenue is sorted. And that is the whole bottom line that brings us one step closer to diversity. I mean, whether you are of different gender, whether you are coming from various different ethnicity, whether you have different physical abilities, you're from different age groups, and whether you have different orientation, all of that is next. But first, you are a human, you're a person, you're a man, woman. So as long as the leaders care for people, care for each other, that kind of sorts things out. But why are we talking about diversity now? Why are we talking about all of this in a big way now? Because historically, what we have seen is this, the whole idea of caring for people has taken a back step. And everybody's focused on numbers and their bottom lines and their balance sheets and whatnot. And care for people have taken the second priority. Hence, it is really important to kind of talk about it more, communicate, over communicate, paste the posters everywhere so that people can now look at it and think about it, that did we miss the opportunity to care for our people, and then come back to it. And that's the whole reason why the whole boom around diversity. And that's why we want to kind of make sure that everybody understands why diversity is important. And that's where we take our discussion next. But while we are talking about diversity, it's very important for us to understand that it's not just that you hire a couple of female employees and your team is diverse. It's not that you just show sensitivity around LGBTQ community and your organization is diverse. It's not that. It's about, you have the right policies, you have right procedures within your company. Your people are inclusive. You are kind of you take everybody together, you make decisions based on everybody's input, and that's when you really become a diverse and inclusive organization. So whenever you want, as a leader, as an entrepreneur, as whoever you may be in the organization, or you are running your own business, whatever position you're holding, just look at the grassroots level of the whole problem. Care, care for people, care for living being. That's the grassroots important aspect about everything that we're going to talk about, right? Now, why is it important? Now, on this slide, you would see 4 points, which are pretty simple and easy to understand. And that's true in any given world, at any time in history of this world, today, yesterday, or 20 years ago. This holds true. But I want to bring a point why it is even more important today. And if we are not capturing it, we are losing. We are losing big time. Because if you kind of look back and see when the whole 2020 happened, everybody went back home. Everybody started looking at opportunities and starting to think about how to work from home. And then everybody got connected. So as of today, as of now, even the companies who are not really on internet are on internet. The whole idea of moving to cloud got accelerated. The companies who are thinking to go to cloud are now in cloud, right? Which makes it really, really, really important for us to understand that majority of organization, and at least all of us, are connected, right? So geography is not a problem anymore. And if that is a problem for you, you really need to sit down, think about it, reflect to yourself. But in general, geography is not a problem. So that brings in huge opportunity, right? If you were operating in India, let's say you were only operating in Telangana or Maharashtra for that matter, because everybody in this whole world is connected. Now the whole world is open for you to do the business. You can have people anywhere. And it's not just that you can have people, you've got tools and technology to help you manage that, right? If you ask me 3 years ago if I would do a whole team work from home, I would be a little jittery and say, okay, there'll be a lot of processes and policies has to be created. But in today's time, there are so many tools available that you can just implement in your environment and have everybody connected and have a virtual workspace where everybody is connected. I mean, for that matter, I use Slack heavily, and that has massive integration with so many other functionality and other tools that you can connect with, and you could basically have the same feel, not the same, but at least the same feel of having a team working together, right? So this is a major opportunity that we have today, that the whole world is connected. It's not just the internet connection, but you really have the tools and technology now to build your teams, the whole dispersed team, into one very closed knit team. You really don't have to focus, really don't have to worry about how you're going to bring them closer. There are utilities to do that. And if you just spend a little bit of time, you get all of that on your fingertips. Now, enough of me stressing on the opportunity that we have today to kind of really focus on, if we are not diverse, if we don't have people from everywhere, then we should. This is the time, right? Now, if that doesn't kind of sway you towards making this decision, those bullet points right there, it helps you make better decisions, because you have people from at least multiple ethnicity, people from different age groups, people who have experience, multitude of experience, people from, I mean, if your leadership has different genders, alone can help a lot. I mean, you can see the difference. We'll have a certain graph that I have put in for you to understand the difference between a diverse leadership and a non-diverse leadership, and you would be able to connect to it as to why I'm saying that you'll be able to make better decisions, because you'll have more inputs. You'll have people coming and telling you a lot of things that you yourself were not able to think, or maybe same type of mindset of folks working together were not able to think, and now you bring people from all different areas and they come in and give you fresh ideas, so you take better decisions, which kind of ties down to that you're able to innovate better and innovate faster. And now that the third point, capture a new market, which I was pretty much kind of stressing a lot about. I mean, the whole world is open for you to do the business. What are you waiting for? Go and grab it. And when you do all of this, what's going to happen? obviously you will grow, your company will grow, the overall growth of humanity and your organization. And if you see, diverse companies are 15% more likely to notice higher financial returns, and pretty much the reasons that I have cited. And this is not something that I'm making up. There's a whole community of built in beta. If you look up, you will find this statement from them, right? So that's the whole idea as to why diversity is important. And when we talk about diversity, inclusion by default needs to be discussed about it, because if you talk about what, you got to talk about how, right? Now let's say you've invested time and you've got your human resources team walk the whole 9 yards, and you've hired a very diverse team. Now what? Now how do you get to make better decisions? How do you get to kind of capture new markets if you are not going to listen to them, or if you're not going to make them feel included, or if you just hire them and keep them as ornaments? That's not going to work out for you, and probably they'll just leave in a month or two. So getting a diverse team is important, but it's one thing. And then the whole game starts, which is where you have to build the mindset of inclusion, which is why it is called as the how, which is basically your initiatives, how you are working, what are your processes, what are your policies, how you're handling your workforce, right? Are you making them feel included? If not, then there's no fun. I mean, there's no use of having a diverse team. They're gonna leave you any which way. So put those effort, and unless you put those effort, nothing's going to change. So you have to put effort, right? So that is very important, that when you have diverse team, you have to be very inclusive. You cannot be like thinking with one fixed mindset. And that is why I always talk about growth mindset, the yet factor. Even if you have not reached it yet, you have an opportunity where you can work more to go there, right? And that is where we want to bring up certain stats for you, wherein a lot of companies only focus on improving the workspace diversity, right? So okay, we are very diverse. We've hired women, we have hired some retired folks, we've hired physically or differently abled people, and whatnot, right? So now we are very diverse, and we are super happy. We have been audited and we are given some awards. Awesome. Now what? Why is the revenue not increasing? Why is the attrition rate so high? Why people are not happy? I mean, we are diverse. Well, you are diverse, no doubt about it. But how are you handling that diverse workforce? Are you really making them feel as one with you? Are you letting them feel that they're working for their own company? Are they able to take decisions? Are they empowered enough to kind of do their day-to-day activities? Do you have certain biasness towards them, right? Though those unconscious biasness that we have, even without knowing, we kind of do things and say things that may cause a lot of harm to our organization. And that is one very important factor that we should talk, think, and discuss about. Because unless you really discuss about your unconscious bias, you will not really know about it, and you will not be able to figure out whether you should stop it, reduce it, or not, right? So if you look at some of the stats that we have in US, the veteran unemployment rate increased in 2020, and 42% of women have faced gender discrimination at their jobs. So even though they were part of the organization, but they still faced gender discrimination, which may have led to some legal battles, or may have led to them leaving the job and moving out to some other organization. And there goes your diversity, for that matter, right? So this is why I'm stressing too much about inclusion. And that is why embracing inclusion in your workspace is very important. And how do you do that? Right? I've been harping about inclusion. You might think, how? Right? I said inclusion is the how. Now what? we are we are going to be very inclusive. Yes, I'm going to be very inclusive from tomorrow, and I'll have a very diverse team. But I'm not going to change the way I talk, the way I run the meetings, the way I send my emails out. I'm not going to do any changes like that. And then I'll come back after a quarter and say, hey, nothing changed. What the hell? That is where we have to really think about, are we letting our people talk their mind? Are we hearing them out? Are we accommodating with their needs, their desires, whatever they need to achieve those results? Right? At the same time, there are certain great organizations, and I'm part of an awesome organization which provides this resource, mental health resource and support for employees and their families. Right? The last year, the whole COVID time, and hopefully it's over, but we are on the last leg of it. It was difficult. It was difficult for the employees, it was difficult for the family members, it was difficult for relatives. I mean, I personally had members who had been impacted themselves, or their family members, very close family members, or their relatives, which had impacted them, and they needed time off. They needed, even if they came back, they were not able to focus on their work. And that is where this overall partnership that we have with a certain organization which does this work, which really helped us in order to kind of contain the overall problems that could have creeped in. So it's very important, and this is not something that a frontline manager or a function leader would be able to do. This is your top management, your exec team, that is deciding this. So if you are a leader, if you are an C-suite person, think about this, because this is very important. And then a very tactical point that I wanted to make, which is what I was kind of referring earlier, was like, how do you run your meetings? Are your meetings very directive? Are your meetings very uh, kind of, yes, I'm the person who's going to take the decision, I am the boss kind of a meeting? Or your meeting is like, let everybody talk, let everybody express their ideas, their points, their views. Let's discuss all pros and cons and then take a decision. Right? Are you really letting people talk, or you're just cutting them off because you have more ideas, because you've got so much of experience and you're the boss? Well, if you are in that zone, you got to do some work, right? So this is important. That's the whole reason I want to keep a very simple tactical stuff over here, so that we can relate to it and be able to understand, okay, this is a problem and we all should work on it. Now, overall, these 3 points are very important for us, but at the same time, you will not be able to have an inclusive organization unless you really attack your unconscious bias. Now, what is unconscious bias? I mean, you might have heard about bias, but what's unconscious bias? Unconscious bias is like, you don't know that you're doing something wrong. That's pretty much is like, you really don't know, and you think that it doesn't really matter. Example: let's say you have an office which has multiple floors. You have a team member who's heavy in size, who's big built, or maybe a fat employee that you have. You have a meeting on third floor. You yourself are very fit, agile, athletic person. You and that fat employee are sitting around on the same floor. The meeting is going to happen on the third floor. You choose to take stairs. You and your employee were walking together and you suddenly chose to take stairs. That is not wrong. You are athletic, you're physically fit, you want to take it, and maybe in your mind you're thinking that I'm helping the dude to probably reduce, do some physical activity, and that's a positive thing, right? But that's an unconscious bias, that you are thinking that that person needs help to reduce his weight by walking with you on the stairs. So that's wrong. That's something that you need to think around, right? That's called as weight bias. So we have to confront the biases that we have. There are various type of bias. We have confirmation bias, affinity bias, ageism, beauty bias, halo effect, weight bias. I just gave you an example of weight bias, but what is beauty bias? I mean, this is kind of, women might have experienced a lot. I mean, a good looking female employee would be given certain additional responsibilities or benefits for whatever reasons. That's beauty bias. And unfortunately, if you're doing that, stop it. At the same time, the halo effect, and this might be something very difficult to capture, but towards while I wrap up this slide, I would give you a very simple trick to handle this. But the halo effect is very crucial to really understand. Why? Because we all have to reward people who are doing great, aren't we? Yes, we have to. And if somebody is doing great in their work, they are on the top of the chart. What's the harm in rewarding them? No harm. But if you are constantly keeping them on the top, if you are always giving them all the opportunities that are coming by your team, then that's the halo effect. Because you're not giving anyone else the opportunity, because somebody is already performing at the top level, you think that person would be able to deliver all the good things, and that probably is in your good book, and you give them all the opportunities. That's the halo effect. You got to come out of that. So there are even more different versions of biases that can happen with us. We'll all have to be very conscious about what we are doing, how we are doing, right? And this is where we need to really think about how are we making our decisions, how are we reacting to certain situations, how are we giving those merit increases, how those opportunities to people. And as I said, very simple trick is to base everything on merit. And that merit, again, you might come back saying that if you have all fishes and you have to really win a race to climb a tree, you will not be able to give anybody anything. Well, that's a wrong race I'll be taking part in, right? I would rather have a swimming race and have my fishes run in that if I'm a good leader. And that's where the overall understanding of your workforce, your goal setting, and everything comes in play. So you have to kind of marry all these points together and then base your decisions on everybody's performance rather than their how they look, what they have done in past. If your group is the group that you belong to have a certain kind of confirmation, they're tall, they're fat, they're dark, they're white, whatever, does not matter. Those are the things that we really need to kind of think about, work on it, seek for help if that may, right? Seek for help as well. It's not necessary that you got to solve everything by yourself. Seek for help, look for people, look for mentor, look for organization that can come in and help you guys. So that is very important, because unless we really confront the biases, unconscious biases that exists, will not be able to have an inclusive environment for the team. Now, we spoke about diversity, we spoke about inclusion, we spoke about our unconscious bias. Now, what is the benefit? Now, diversity and inclusion goes hand in hand. And this is where I wanted to kind of share with you as to, if you look on the right hand side, the chart that I have from McKinsey and Company, it basically has two type of organizations. The black one is the bottom quartile and the blue one is the top quartile. Now you'd ask me, what is bottom quartile, what is top quartile? So this is basically the top quartile and the bottom quartile of diverse organizations, right? So they pretty much plotted all the organizations that they have reviewed, and then picked up the picked up the companies which did not have or had very bad diversity rate, and then they have picked up a top quartile which has very high diversity rate in their leadership or the workforce division. And then they have looked at their revenue rate or from 2014 to 2019. And if you look at since 2014 to 2019, if these the companies who were gender diverse, their growth has been from 15 to 25%, 10% jump straight away. And then if you look at if they were ethnic diverse, then their growth is from 35 to 36, which, I mean, if you're looking at the overall growth itself, 36% year on year, that's massive. I mean, people go crazy if they have 5 to 7% growth and they start giving Diwali bumper offers, but 36% is massive, massive. So that's the impact that you'll have if you have a good, diverse team and a very good workforce, work culture in your organization. So do look at these factors when you're building your team. Now, having a diverse workforce, as we spoke about, is the first step. And the next step, and on and on and on and on, is your inclusion, which is where all the empathy and everything comes in. So that's very important. Now, coming back to the whole idea of diversity and inclusion, the bottom line, or you call it the summary of the overall discussion that we had, diversity means you have employees from all walks of life, any demography, any age group, whatever. Your criteria is merit, your criteria is performance, your criteria is their caliber of performing the task and the tasks that are suited for their role. And hence, you have a diverse team. Next, you have policies, procedures, you make them feel included on every decision that you're making. You become an inclusive organization. Your diversity and inclusion will raise productivity for your employees, which will and their satisfaction, which would in turn increase your revenue, your performance on the Nasdaq or Nifty, whatever you may call it, wherever you're registered. Your bottom line is gonna go crazy if you have a great team that's working for you. Now, inclusion will start with you addressing your unconscious biases, because as long as you don't address them, you fortunately unfortunately will not see the leap, because you will kind of irk someone, maybe unconsciously, without even thinking of doing harm to anyone. You may be doing harm. So think on those lines and kind of ensure that you've kind of confronted them, kind of addressed them. And finally, you're not alone. If you are the CEO of the company, if you are the leader of the function, you're not alone. You're not the only one who have to make this happen. You have the whole organization with you. You have your peers, you have your leaders, you have your workforce. Work with everybody. It's a group effort. It's not a individual contribution role, right? So it's very important that we look at it as a group or a team activity and not just one person driving everything. With that, I want to kind of also say diversity and inclusion are not just the buzzword, not just the marketing word. Don't just sell your product and have a multicolored flag rolling around that in your product advertisement, but really dig deep into it, address all the biases, and take effort to ensure that your team is really inclusive. And with that, I just want to say thank you for listening me. If you have any questions, please ask me, or if you want to connect with me, ravi.verma at focushive.in. That's my email address, and I'll be waiting for you guys to come and reach me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an enlightening talk, and very well said that, of course, these things require a lot of time, and it's not a one day thing. You know, having people from different domains, different categories, different backgrounds, it's difficult to mingle up them. So, thank you so much
Sure.
for all your insightful things. Thank you.
Thank you so much. If there are any questions, I'd like to take. If not, then we're good.
Right now, we don't see any questions. Seems like audience really understood it very well. So, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Have a great rest of your event.